Yeah. 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 Welcome, everybody, to another fantastic episode of CUE SuperShares. And we are here with a very, very, very great episode and guest, or should I say guests for you today. And yes, this is actually me. I'm not a generative AI created individual. It is actually me, Joe Marquez. And if you don't know who I am the Director of Academic Innovation for CUE. And we absolutely love that you are joining us today. Now, many of you join us virtually or live when these episodes air, but we would also love for you to join us in person. CUE does many in-person events throughout the year. Fall CUE and Spring CUE and various others. And Spring CUE is happening in less than 2 months. In about 6 weeks, Spring CUE, maybe even 5 weeks by the time you're seeing this, is going down in Palm Springs, California. Yes, that is correct. The beautiful Palm Springs, March 16th to 18th. We will have thousands of educators ascending upon the beautiful Palm Springs, or is it descending? Coming on. Gonna be there, and we're gonna have some great innovations and conversations and ideations for you to have in real life. So if you love SuperShares and hearing all the amazing things that we at CUE are doing, or you, the CUE members, are doing in your classroom, you cannot miss Spring CUE and see everything that is happening in education today. Okay. Now that's it for the promos. Okay. Now we are down to the nitty-gritty of the show. And to get started with the show, I thought I'd bring on a very special guest. Yes, Mike Vollmer is here, the executive director of CUE, the executive director. He used to be the intern, and we kind of, wiggled his arm and forced him into becoming the executive director because he's doing such an amazing job. Because he brings partnerships and ideas and just people who are just amplifying the mission of CUE. And we have one of those guests today. So, Mike, I would love for you to explain who our guest is, and why you gravitated towards what he does, and why you thought our CUE members would greatly benefit from what he does.
Hey, Joe, thanks for arm wrestling me into the program. I appreciate that. When I came on board with CUE, one of the conversations that we started having was about the next iteration of CUE as being an innovative organization, and we started talking about who's not really being part of our conversation, and who's really critical to that are administrators. And the reason that's so important is because school leaders working with school teachers have to be in sync in order to get change to happen effectively on a school campus. We got to get everybody on the same page. So the idea was, how can we bring value to administrators as being part of the conversation? And then how can we bring the conversations that teachers are having when they come to a CUE event and they get their best takeaways and all the new ideas that are always part of our events? How can we get that conversation to continue after the conferences? And how can we provide some value-added innovation and ideas for administrators in the camp that administrators spend their time on their daily work? And we learned about a group called Warm Demanders, who primarily work with school leaders and district leaders, and they provide a tremendous amount of learning and professional development for those folks. But in conversations with Warm Demanders, they're much more committed to that holistic view that we are than I realized when we first started having the conversations. And from that, we've developed a really rich partnership that's a value added not only for CUE members who are teachers and TOSAs and the folks that I would call classroom practitioners, the ones that are really focused on what's happening in the classroom, and for school leaders who, in addition to making sure that those folks have the tools and resources that they need, are also having conversations from a leadership level about what sort of strategic things need to be done to make a school better for their clients, for their students. And so Aubrey Patterson, who's the head of Warm Demanders, has been a phenomenal partner. He's very, very committed to doing this work. And so it's really exciting to have him come in and be part of what we're doing. Aubrey's going to be at Spring CUE, and we've had leadership strands in the past at our conference, but this year we have framed a lot of things that are specifically focused on administrators and the work they do, as opposed to having administrators come and see what's available in terms of tools and techniques in the classroom, because we always have those sessions anyway. So what's unique now is that we're going to have some sessions that administrators can go that are geared towards their day-to-day work. And Aubrey is the innovator and the impetus behind all of this talk.
Well, and that's great. Let's bring Aubrey on. He's here with us on the show right now. Aubrey, welcome to SuperShares, and thank you so much for everything that you do for education and your hard work and what you've created and joining forces with CUE. Aubrey, could you give a little bit of background on who you are, what you've done with education, and then a little bit behind the name Warm Demanders, because that's a little contradictory to me, but I want to hear a little bit about that from you.
Well, hey, thanks for having me here today, guys. Hey, I really appreciate it, Joe. So I was most recently in a previous life, I was a superintendent, a deputy superintendent, and a high school principal, and an elementary principal, and a teacher, and a varsity basketball coach. Like I did it all, and I loved it all. And I got to say, when I look back, what I'm proudest about is the fact that I was myself in all of those roles. Like I always felt truly authentic, and I had people around me who let me be me, And so that flavors everything that I do. And when I look back now, when people ask me, so what did you do in a previous life? First response is, hey, I was a teacher, man. Like that's what, at every part, whatever the role was, I was always a teacher, man. And so
that's why I want to stop you right there, because that's the thing. Once a teacher, always a teacher, right? You can remove the teacher from the classroom, but you cannot remove the classroom from the teacher. And I love the fact that you took what you did in the classroom and kept moving it forward in every different facet of your leadership roles. And now you're taking all of that and sharing that wealth with more administrators coming down to learn about this. So I just want to say I appreciate that, because I think a lot of us love to say the title we are currently, when in fact, if we're a teacher, we start with we're educators, and that's where our heart comes from. So I love the fact that that's where you start.
Oh, well, thank you. So and like many, my dad was a teacher, my grandpa was a teacher, and so I'll always be a teacher. My daughter is a teacher in the high school where I initially started as a teacher.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, it just keeps on rolling, man. So I love everything to do with education. That's my history. I'm in Alberta, Canada. We've always been known for having a really strong education system. And when I was a superintendent, assistant superintendent, all that, we had incredible results. But the biggest results, of course, were seeing the big smiles on people's faces and all the cool things that the kids were doing all the time. And we had happy teachers too, man. I just love, take a lot of pride in the fact that everybody was pulling together and we had some great results. And I do want to throw in, the entire time I was at the district office, which was the last 11 years, assistant superintendent through superintendent, I got to stick around and be the varsity basketball coach over at the high school, because I still needed that fix with the kids. And that's the thing I miss the most to this day is the kids now. I've been doing Warm Demanders now for 3 years. And before that, a little bit of presenting just as myself. But yeah, the thing I miss the most of the old days is the kids. I still get to see lots of teachers. I mostly miss the kids.
Well, I mean, everything we do just boils down to, what can we do to elevate the educational experience for the kids, right? It doesn't matter what level of educator you are. It doesn't matter what level administrator you are. Every decision you should make should boil down to what is the experience going to be for students in the classroom. And I love that that's where your heart is. And that's probably where Warm Demanders is coming from. How can administrators make the right decisions or see the entirety of what they're doing, but in the lens of how is this affecting students in the classroom, or how is this affecting change in the classroom to ultimately affect students? So Aubrey, could you talk a little bit about Warm Demanders and the program that you have created and like the mission statement of your organization?
Yeah, I'd love to. So yeah, you asked earlier as well, like, is there a contradiction in the terms? Yeah, of course there is. That's part of the fun of it, right? Like, and we had heard the term warm demanders in relation to teachers, that teacher that is, highly joyful and yet holds the kids accountable all the time. And the kids love that teacher, like that kind of feeling. And we applied it to administrators originally. Now warm demanders, like we have thousands of people taking our courses and working with us in coaching and a number of different ways. And we can talk about that right away, but we have, a whole myriad of sorts. We have teachers, administrators, tech coaches, instructional coaches, directors, whatever. We have lots of people now, but originally we were focused on school and district administrators. And the basic idea is like, we were saying, like, how can we take care of those people that want to be truly authentic and be nice, and go around and be who they really are as an administrator, and, talk to people and, just break the mold in many cases. And I don't want to be insulting. There's so many wonderful administrators out there that truly are all of these wonderful things. But like, originally it was like, how can you get everything done and hold yourself and others accountable and not, be tiredatnight.com, like that would be the original URL, but it was a little bit long and a little bit tough to, remember. So we eventually shortened it down, kept getting it down to, well, how can you be warm and demanding? That's it, right? So, and of course we borrowed the term from, like I said, what we heard with teachers earlier. So just as the pandemic was starting up, we started to create some online courses. We started to do a lot of one-to-one coaching and take a lot of my old ed tech skills. I did skills using it loosely, presenting skills maybe about ed tech from past conferences where I do a lot of presenting, and we brought all that stuff together to try to help people to kind of just like calm things down and be authentic 24 hours a day. So I don't know, long answer, but that's who
but
we
I think there's some keys in that. And from my perspective with, wanting to get administrators part of the conversation about ed tech and innovation in the classroom and new and more appropriate in the 21st century pedagogies for kids. I think you and I have a similar trajectory, Aubrey. I was a classroom teacher and a site administrator and a district administrator. And my frustration, especially at the site, was I always felt that part of my job was to be in the classrooms, working with teachers and even working with kids. But all the administrivia and the demands and the inundation of demands on my time from parents and certainly teachers, the district office folks, it sucked my entire day dry. And my only solution to the problem was get to work earlier, which meant, when you take on at a high school campus, the supervision for all the events and things that are going on, I could go a week and never see my young children awake. And that was terrible. The other thing was I could never get into the classrooms on a regular enough basis to really be a resource for the teachers and to provide some help or a lens for them. The stuff that you've done, I mean, it's like if I knew now what if I knew then what I know now, it would be awesome. FYI, my inbox is at 4 emails, and that's 100% in recognition of your course on getting to inbox 0, which, by the way, is one of the sessions, right, that you're going to do at Spring CUE for administrators. How to get from, how many is it?
Well, so far for administrators, the record was 56,000. And that was a lot of fun. Originally, it was I used to have a presentation and a keynote that was called 25,000 to 0 in 30 minutes. And then somebody attended it, a principal from Texas attended it. And she came up after, just gave me this big bear hug, and it was a lot of fun. And she was smiling. She said, 56,000. And I was like, come on. And she says, I saved them in my deleted to show you. And she showed me her deleted files. I was like, wow. So that became the new presentation title at a certain point. And with all that, Mike, like I truly appreciate, thank you for the kindness with that too. But I truly appreciate those feelings, right? Like it's like you mentioned about, you can go a week without seeing the kids and that, like, so I do some courses and I do some presenting, but mostly I do executive coaching. Mostly principals, superintendents, a couple of mayors, people who get a lot of stuff coming at them, right? Like just a lot of stuff. Some university chancellors, etc. Like they're just inundated with stuff, and they have no peace of mind. And it's not like it's going to be like less volume or less speed a year from now. Like that stuff's only going to increase, right? So you need better systems. But what I've found is over the last 15, 20 years is as our technology has evolved, and wonderful, major pro tech here, as our technology has evolved, some of our systems have devolved. As we've become better as individuals with the technology and the information management, we've become weaker as teams. And so when the teams become weaker, the systems become weaker.
Yeah.
And what really works well is to go back to the teachings of Dr. Covey 25, 30 years ago, Jim Collins, Drucker, etc., and now bring those back with all of their systems work, Peter Senge, all of those systems work, bring it back now and apply it to these amazing technologies we have at our fingertips. And so that's what we do. And so I don't want people running around with their main purpose in life being to have their email at inbox 0. That's crazy town, man. Like, why? Is that your purpose? But I do believe that it should happen organically 2 or 3 or 4 times a week. And it should always be within your tolerance level. For me, my tolerance level is like 10 or 15. After that, I'm like, oh man, this is nuts. But Joe, yours might be 25 and Mike, yours might be 100. Cool. Like whatever works for you.
Yeah.
And then I've got like some people I've worked with say, well, seriously, why do I even care? Because my inbox, like everything's web-based anyway. I've got 100,000 sitting in my inbox right now. I've read them all. I've done everything. I feel good about it. My answer to that, awesome. If that system works for you, that's great. You're in the 1 or 2%. Most people get stressed by having a huge inbox.
Well, that's
most people hate all that stuff, right? Yeah.
I define inbox 0 as my unread emails, right? Not my whole inbox, but the thing that keeps me awake at night is I've got 100 unread emails. Where's the important things I need to be sharing with everybody? For example, with the CUE team, what are we missing? What's being delayed? What is slowing us down because I'm not responsive to those requests? And your strategy for creating folders for various things and for how to work that down, your strategy for booking time with myself, where I create a meeting just for me, and I do it once a week, but that really helps me frame what it is that I need to get done and prioritize stuff. If I would have been able to discipline myself to do that when I was a site administrator, I would have had huge chunks of time that I could have spent in the classroom helping improve pedagogy and classroom instruction, which was my whole MO for being an administrator in the first place. And it was the very first thing that fell off the plate. You get sucked into administrivia and all of this other stuff that demands your attention, and you lose focus of what's really important, in my opinion. And that's really being on top of what's best for kids. And all the other stuff has to be done. You got to run the plant. You got to deal with all of the out of the classroom aspects of what happens when you've got any sort of big organization to run. But not being in the classroom is the thing that frustrated me more than anything. And it's the first thing that fell off. So, developing those systems and being able to keep an eye on where the priority was. Like I said, if I knew then what I know now, I would have been a much, much better administrator. And I wasn't bad.
It's very well. It's very crucial, especially when people are beginning a new role, right? Like nobody sits in a job interview and says, "Yeah, so I want to figure out ways to get a whole bunch of forms in on time and do this stuff." Like everybody goes into a job interview, and I've hired hundreds of administrators and thousands of teachers. I don't remember anyone saying, I just want to comb spreadsheets and go through that spreadsheet and make sure that the numbers add up and submit them. Come on, man. Like nobody cares about that stuff, right? But that's what they find themselves doing. And and most of the time it's this kind of a paranoia. Like there's just stuff out there that I might be missing. Give you an example. I take a lot of pride in the one-to-one coaching I do, especially with principals. A young principal, name's Mark, and Mark, if you're watching, I'm going to pre-apologize for telling your story here right now. So anyway, Mark is just the nicest guy. Like he's such a nice guy, hardworking, first-year principal. He's starting to resent his supervisors, and that's making him resent himself because he's not a resentful person. But he's finding that he doesn't have the time that he wants for the kids to help these kids out in the school because he's doing all this administrivia. And I said, well, man, it's part of the job. You got to get it done so that you can help the kids and the teachers. He says, I know, but I keep getting these emails from people and reminders, and it's just like I start to resent them. And it's just no way, like I don't even know if I'm cut out for this. And I said, you're cut out for this. You need a system in place. And so we started working on some time blocking to get stuff out of his head. Because what's happening is he's just being reminded over and over again all these tasks, and he's so worried that he's going to miss something that he can't actually see all the good things that are in front of him. Yeah. And that's where we got to get these systems in place for people so they can actually have the time. Again, go back to Dr. Covey, manage things so that you can lead people. We got to make it happen so that we can give these people the structures. One-to-one meetings are easy to put in as a principal. I had like close to 90 staff when I was a high school principal, and I saw most of them weekly for 5 minutes. And I saw all of them at least monthly for 15 minutes. And you might say, well, who's doing all the work, right? But if you actually are talking to the people, your staff meetings are suddenly like a third the length. And I have yet to find any teachers that, don't appreciate a shorter staff meeting, right? Like when Rushton and I do presentations on staff meetings, like it's funny because you'd expect it to be mostly administrators, but it's a lot of teachers there. And I think they're just sitting there just kind of like, I wish, man.
Yeah, why can't we have this?
Yeah, but like that's the idea. Meetings done well leads to fewer emails. Email done well leads to fewer meetings. And one-to-one meetings leads to fewer of both of those things, right? And so you have all these systems in place. So, I mentioned my one friend there, Susan, a principal. She's awesome, experienced principal. Everybody loves her. Elementary principal, runs around, takes care of everybody all day. At night, she is exhausted. Kind of like what you're describing, Mike, with you might not see the kids all week.
Yeah.
That was her thing, but she couldn't sleep at night because she was so worried because her inbox is so full because she didn't have a chance to check on her email through the day because she's running around serving the heck out of everybody around her. Awesome. Everybody loves Susan. She's amazing. And like she's one that I was so surprised that she needed a coach. It's like, you should be coaching me, man. Like everybody loves you. You're legendary. They sing folk songs about you in the hills. Like you are awesome. And yet she wanted help. Well, it's because at night she couldn't sleep because she was so worried about all the stuff that might be out there. There wasn't anything out there. And we just had to put a system in place to make it so that her inbox would hit zero regularly throughout the week. That was about 1.5 years ago. I can't wait for the presentations at CUE. I actually have, from these people I'm talking about and a bunch of others, testimonials where it was like the start and then the finish. And I've got Susan where it's like, I can't sleep and I keep thinking about these things. And okay. And then about a month later, it's like, I had the best night's sleep ever. I'm not magical. I just gave her a system that I learned years ago from some 7 Habits training.
And Aubrey, knowing all this, you have all these courses on the Warm Demanders website, but you're bringing some of this information to sessions at Spring CUE. Could you, but I know you have the bring your inbox down to zero. That's going to be one of your sessions. What are the other couple sessions that you're doing that, if administrators are considering going, like what would be your pitch? Hey, you got to come to this because this is how it's going to help you out.
Cool. Thanks, Joe. So I'm going to take the inbox zero and I'm going to extend that one to your head. This inbox too. Okay. So like we're going to take all that information that's in your head and in your email, and you're going to have a really simple algorithm that works everywhere. So not just for your email, but also you're having a conversation in the hall. Mr. or Mrs. Cranky Pants is calling you on the phone, giving you heck about something for the 17th time. How do you deal with all this stuff? Filter it, turn it into information. So how do we have an inbox zero? We're going to work on time blocking so that your calendar is not just a reflection of everybody else's to-do lists. Like if most people, I challenge anybody who's watching right now, if you look in your calendar, I'm going to say in most cases, it's a selection of meetings that you've accepted and other people's priorities. Let's make sure that we get your priorities in your calendar. That's going to be a session. So we got those two. And then my favorite one is going to be Saturday morning at CUE. And we're going to answer the question, what do you do? Because this happens all the time. What do you do when there's like 2 minutes left in a staff meeting and somebody has a great question? Like, what do you do at that point? Oops, Siri apparently wants to answer that for me right now. So what do you do? There's 2 minutes left to go. Everything's rolling around. Everybody's great, ready to go. You have a meeting from 3:30 to 4:30, and at 4:28, Anna has a question. What do you do in that moment? I've got a system for that so that we don't end up with, meeting deja vu. That didn't we talk about this last year? Didn't Anna bring this up? Like all that kind of stuff. And in that, we're going to also talk about how do we use Google Sheets as your primary agenda application. I would say 95% of the hundreds of people I've worked with have moved from using either Google Docs or Word to Google Sheets or Excel for all of their meeting agendas. And there's a very good reason why. And I'm very confident that at least 95% of the room who show up at Spring CUE will do the same thing. And I know it sounds a little crazy.
Well, that sounds very intriguing to me. I mean, I've used Google Sheets for a lot of things, but for agendas, like, why would you use it for agenda? So I am very interested in seeing that session as well. And I want all the CUE members listening right now that there are quite a few of these courses already in the community portal, right? So if you go into the community portal and you look at the Nook, there's a little section called the Nook. You can see these courses, and as a CUE member, you have access to those. And Aubrey and Mike work that out for free for CUE members to go in there and go through these courses from the Warm Demanders website. I've gone through a couple of them, and I think I want to go through the email one again because my numbers are not close to what your guys's are. I have a lot of spam in there as well, but I'm going to go through there because I have to really get back to the basics, like you said, and find a systematic way to make not only my inbox healthy, but my working habits healthy so that, you know, we can all sleep well at night, not worried about what's coming the day after. And I don't know if teachers are going to be happy to know that administrators are also feeling very stressed right now. But at least there's that commonality. Because I guarantee you a lot of the skills that you're teaching administrators on how to streamline things, teachers can glean information from that easily, right, into their daily schedule. Because I want to end with this. There is one commodity in this world that's always existed, but there's never enough of. We always want more of, and we always end up having zero of at the end, and that's time. Yep. And if there's anything that we can do to give us some time, we need to do it. And I think technology and systems working together can do that for us. And I think that's the drive of how Warm Demanders works. Right, Mike?
Coupled with that is time is that immutable constant. We can't change it. There's 24 hours a day. Do the math and figure out how many seconds that is if you want. And we can allow all of these demands that we have on our time to take up every last second through that 24-hour day. So what can we do to make things as efficient as possible so that we can allocate time to the things that we think are really important and make those priorities? And the thing I appreciate about the work that Aubrey does is it allows us to create a system where we can have that conversation and we can start to create these opportunities for us to do the things that we came into this business to do as an administrator in the first place, and not allow all of the administration to suck up our time because we just get overwhelmed and we don't have a system in place. And last thing I want to say is I really hope that the administrators who are coming to CUE and attending take some time to attend these sessions. And I wanted to mention Rushton Hurley, who works with Aubrey with the work of Warm Demanders. He's doing a session also as part of that leadership strand on how to tell your story as a school, how to make sure that everybody knows the great things that are happening at your school. Because a lot of places, first time anybody really knows the story of a school is when something bad happens. But what about all those great things that are happening every day? How can we tell that story so that people know about the great things that are going on at the school? Aubrey, I can't tell you how much I appreciate, you coming to CUE and developing this partnership to share all of these great things with our members. I'm absolutely fired up about this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be there. I'm really excited to work with administrators. And hey, if I'm hoping a lot of teachers will come to the sessions too, right? Because like you guys are saying, this stuff is universal. It's funny. I presented I've presented this stuff with teachers. I've presented this stuff with coaches, with administrators. like whoever, it's universal. It works for everyone, and I'm really excited about it. Somebody asked me once, like, do you do something for wellness? Yeah, this. You do something for mental health? Yeah, this. So like, I hope everybody will come on in. I guarantee you show up. You've got the courses that are in CUE already, and again, we are happy to offer those up. It just feels like the right thing to do. We're totally aligned with the mission and the beliefs of CUE. It just makes perfect sense. Also, you come to my sessions, I'll give you tech time savers, and I'll give you a version of the secretary, or I'll give you a secretary and admin professional course to take home. If you've got an admin pro or a secretary and you want them to be able to time block and do all these things better and work together as a team, we've got 25 lessons for them too. We'll toss that in. Just got to show up in the room for that one.
Wow.
Look at all these great nuggets, not only for being a CUE member in the portal, but also for coming to Spring CUE. That is the call for you right now, everybody. That if you are thinking about going to Palm Springs for Spring CUE and you're teetering, this should teeter that totter. This should bring you in because it saves you time and it just brings you in. And normally, Mike and Aubrey, I would normally put you both into the green room and then close us out. But I'm just going to close us out together because this conversation just really just hit home, right? Not only because I know as a teacher, there was a lot of times I felt like I had no time to innovate and try new things, right? But also sometimes in my position, it feels like I'm doing a lot to push things forward. I don't have enough time to sit back and ideate and think. And I think I can use a lot of your tips and techniques in my daily practice. And I love the fact that you said this is not just for administrators. It's for the true runners of the school, the secretaries who make things happen. They can learn and do these things as well. And teachers can find ways to evaluate their time to really, truly make things happen in their classroom. Because as we said at the beginning, let's bring it all back. Everything that we do as educators is for our students. And when we have more time to put in really thoughtful innovations, that is what makes an engaging and thoughtful environment for our kids. And so this all comes full circle. A well-oiled campus comes from team building and great communication and great systems put into place, all run through great technologies that are available for you. And so thanks everybody for listening. Thank you so much for sticking with all of our episodes. This is season 5 of SuperShares. We hope you are enjoying it. There are plenty more to come, and we hope to see you there for each and every Wednesday when they air. So I guess we're going to end right now. Have yourselves a wonderful